What's your story behind a PB&J?
I want a sandwich. I make a sandwich. I eat the sandwich.
You think I care about that? Look, I can do whatever I want, all right? If I want to shoot a paintball gun at my dad, I'm gonna do it.
Good shot, son. I'm proud of you.
Will you marry me?
What?
Okay, really, could you stay in the cab? I'm sorry, I'll be right there, I promise. Or maybe I won't. What's your answer?
Top news stories of the week. Time to find out once again with Megan Olson and News of the Week on the Al Travis Show.
I love having her on, but it's just going to drive me nuts. It's Megan's News and Review. Megan, how are you?
Good. Happy to be back. Sorry, I probably got your blood pressure skyrocketing.
It isn't you. It's, I should be old. I'm old enough to know better. And you're going to get here. You're going to be a old, callous old man someday. So I'm 60, going on 62. You see this happen a lot, but probably never as much as we're doing now. Is the idea. I just had Representative Hudson on the program. Nothing's changing. Nothing is going to go on in this session. He doesn't believe, no one believes anything's going to go on. So I tune in anyway, just to find out the new crap that's out there. And yesterday was a whole flipping day of new crap. And to be quite honest, I don't know if anybody can keep track anymore. I got a list of fraud, and now it's sub-frauds and fraud after that. I don't know if maybe I'm the only one who cares or if everyone is just numb by it. Your thoughts on, you're a young person. Get out now. Free yourself. Don't look at politics anymore.
I think it's hard because Minnesota has been under this microscope for the last several years, I would say, especially when it comes to fraud. Couple that with the fact that you had our governor who wanted to run for governor again, but then decided to back out. You have 14 candidates on the Republican side, or whatever the number is. You've got a lot of things happening. It's a big election year. It's midterms from 2 years after a Republican swing. Typically, things don't happen in session, but then you have all the fraud and us being on this elevated national platform. It really is just kind of a recipe for disaster because nothing is predictable. You kind of need the legislature to get stuff done. You need them to address these fraud issues. But at the same time, it's a weird session where normally things like that don't happen, even though they should.
I doubt this made your list today because it pretty much came out yesterday. Let me throw it at you because this is what I mean by fraud and new fraud. And maybe it isn't even new fraud. It's just we're stupid. I know my mother hated that word. We're stupid as Minnesotans. So Kristen Robin running for governor, is running that fraud committee yesterday. She brings up this individual who is convicted, mind you, of child care fraud, was caught at the airport trying to flee the country. This human is still operating an autism center and 2 assisted living facilities. They shut down her child care center on the 19th of February. The new one started the next day with a slightly changed name at the exact same location. The next day.
Well, and it almost makes you wonder, are these people really that dumb where they think that they can get away with this? Or is the system that we have in place here in Minnesota really just not that safeguarded? There's not enough guardrails that it
bing,
is
bing,
that
bing, bing,
easy
bing,
to
bing,
get
bing,
away.
bing, bing, bing. You get a prize, Megan. That is correct. Because this is our governor, 3, 4, 5 months ago, whatever it was, when he decided he was going to just take on fraud. This is a well-oiled group of people, right? This is what did he call them? Gangster, not gangsters, but mob, right?
Mobsters.
This is mobsters coming after us. This is, I think you're going to talk, maybe you won't. This is the group out of St. Cloud, a 22-year-old child. I say child because you're 22. Think back, Megan, to when you're 22 years old and just getting beer at the college was like your big day. This is the mobster, St. Cloud kid. He took $6 million because he started the Star Autism Center.
28 years old. Give him a little more credit. He's a little older to know better.
No, it was 6 years ago when he started. He started in 2020 when he started Star Autism.
Is it already 2026? Oh, dear.
Yeah, so 26 minus 6. I did the math. I put him somewhere at 20 years old. 22. Anyway, he's a college dropout, a community college dropout. He decided I'd start his autism. This is the mob that Governor Walz could not stop. He hired a bunch of his college buddies, some teenage relatives. He offered kickbacks to parents to give them their kids. within months of starting, he was making millions of dollars. He got $6 million out of us. He sent $200,000 to Kenya. He had one employee, had 270 consecutive days working. Some of those were 23 hours days, but no real children. No real children in the autism center.
Well, and what's interesting too is his defense. His lawyer is saying that, well, he didn't know about the kickbacks. That was happening like someone else was in that department running that whole scheme. He just was like at the desk in the office doing paperwork. That's kind of his defense here. It's a very strange court case.
Okay, so let's just say he's not a rocket scientist then, right? He's not a well-oiled mob machine. This is a 22-year-old kid in St. Cloud get kicked out of community college, and he started a $6 million business. Now, he pled guilty. He could go to jail for 5 years. Time for good behavior, what, 3.5? And he's got $6 million, Megan. Do the math.
And
some people think that's good living.
Do they have to pay that money back? So they're like forever indebted to the government. How does that work? I've always wondered the logistics surrounding, especially as we continue to talk about fraud. How does that actually work when these people do plead guilty and are found guilty? Do they owe that money back? And how do they get, like, I don't know.
You're never going to make the $6 million back. He sent $200,000 to Kenya. I don't know what that means in Kenyan money, but I bet you're pretty darn rich if you got $200,000 American money in Kenya. You're doing okay. All right. I owe America $6 million. I'm going to Kenya. I'll just be my millionaire. So this is the Apple Dumpling Gang. You don't know that reference. God, why do I got to be so old? This is children who heard they could do this. This is the two kids from Pennsylvania that drove here and started a company and made money. You know what I'm saying? We have no safe. There isn't even a thing called a safeguard in this.
Well, and I think troubling about this too is, we're talking about all these Medicaid related programs, but we're not talking about that the scope actually might be bigger. We had this big Optum report that came out. They failed to look at what is it called? It's something through like Health Partners, Medica, Hennepin Health, managed care organizations. Yeah. We haven't looked at fraud potentially within those programs. They function very similar to how Medicaid functions in the state. So there's a lot of questions being raised now of, well, do we need to widen the scope of what we're looking at and putting in guardrails?
Megan, okay, the Optum thing is hilarious. We hire Optum. And did we talk about this last week? Optum literally was in the paper because one of their people just got found guilty of what? A fraud.
How do they vertically integrated health insurance company? So I'm not surprised they've got their fingers in the fraud and then with managing the fraud and trying to figure out if there is fraud.
And they found out the guy was doing fraud because they fired him for fraud when they caught him doing another thing. And what do you know? This is crazy on top of crazy. Here's Al Travis prediction number one. Besides in the healthcare industry itself, and there's going to be found fraud. If you want to go looking, you're going to find it in that industry because there's just too much money. I want to go, who's going after the banks? Megan, I can go to my bank right now, and I think I can take $400 out of the ATM machine. I think that's what I bet the ATM's only going to kick out so much. You tell me how these people are sending $200,000 to Kenya, how they're making a suitcase with $800,000 in cash. Some bank has to be, and then my bank doesn't keep $800K cash in small bills here. They would have to call the Federal Reserve and say, Al wants his $800K. You can put the check in for your millions of dollars. You don't just get the cash in cash. How the government doesn't know about it? Someone in the banking business knows exactly where that was going.
Well, was it a $200,000 lump sum, or are we talking about little payments here and there that totaled $200,000? Because that would be the way to fly under the radar.
Well, yeah, but what is it, $10,000? If I put 10 grand in or take my bank gets notified, okay, he did that 20 times. Good for him. The $800,000 in cash leaving in suitcases? How do you get to that? I'm telling you, banks are involved. That's Al's prediction. Well, they have to be. There's no way you can have those transactions. And they want to know, what was that thing with Venmo? Federal government wanted to know if you spent $600 or more.
Like a tax you, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted me for Venmo, and that cat can take $800,000 in a suitcase through the airport, unzip it, and say, yeah, that's legal. Zip her back up and zip her out. That it's unconscionable, Megan. Unconscionable. I'm just mad. We got to go to break.
Well, keep talking about fraud.
It just seems to be our theme. It's Megan's News and Review on the Al Travis Show.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota Capitol, you need more than a lobbyist. You need a partner. At Momentum Advocacy, we bring nearly 90 years of combined experience in government relations, public affairs, and strategic communications. From nonprofits to national corporations, we help organizations navigate Minnesota's political landscape with integrity, insight, and results. Whether you need legislative champions or headlines, Momentum Advocacy delivers. For more, visit momentum-advocacy.com. Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Are you kidding me?
You know that comment you said to the radio? The thing that we got wrong?
Clearly, Brussels sprouts are the worst vegetable.
Call us and let the world know your thoughts. 855-257-7469. That's 855-ALS SHOW.
It's Megan's News and Review, but she does take the top stories that are tweeted, retweeted, and shared across the state of Minnesota in getting rid of sports. But let me ask you how quickly this responds. Any chance that KSTP article or story about the Minnesota Promise Act, did that make the list?
I just was going to say, last 24 hours, we've got kind of a newer fraud story. And how I was going to lead into this is saying, you know, in our last several years of talking about fraud on the show, I think the one really good thing that's come from all of this is that you have some of those more mainstream media outlets that are expanding their investigative journalist wings and doing a really good job at it. And KSTP is one of them. They went ahead and decided to start looking at this Minnesota Promise program, which was a bill that was authored by, I believe, Senator Bobby Joe Champion. And it was something that came out of the pandemic, dealing with helping businesses that were dealing with racial discrimination, civil unrest. If you remember the burning of Minneapolis in 2020, helping those businesses recover, essentially. And now KSTP is digging into it and seeing that, oh, okay, 650 people who have earned a grant of about 50,000 or so, or up to 50,000. Some of these people are sole proprietors, or some of these people are involved also in the housing stabilization program. Are they double dipping? I think this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg in a new fraud story.
This is okay. So
blood pressure. Okay.
We sit here, and in the name of COVID, we did a lot of stuff. We are now 6 years post-COVID, And we're handing out grant money like it means nothing. And you're a big city gal, so maybe you don't understand this. A lot of these, you talked about 300 are sole proprietors, most of them in the transportation business. They're Uber drivers. They're Lyft guys. And they're sending them up to $50,000. Megan, out here in outstate Minnesota, teachers don't make $50K when they've been in for 5 or 10 years. And we're handing it to Uber guy because he got in the business of being an Uber driver, and somehow that's racial discrimination. Don't be an Uber driver. I didn't make you be an Uber driver. That kind of money is nuts, and we give away so much money. We haven't talked about it till KSTP came up. Did anybody even bring up the Minnesota Promise Act? Have we talked about that in 5 years? It's like this hidden gem of crap that we have in the state of Minnesota. Well, I think every outstate Minnesota should be mad.
Senator Champion is kind of, saying, okay, we have a good vetting process. He's defending the bill. Totally get that. But KSTP even took it a step further where this program is not a standalone program that has its own director within the state. It's called a pass-through program. So they partner, DEED partners with kind of management organizations within the community to do the work. And KSTP
to hand out the money.
Reach out to them. One of them has transparency as one of their guiding and founding principles. It's this neighborhood development center, and they do a lot of the work in the metro. They're not talking to the media. And it could be, that they just don't want any part of this. It's all fake, whatever.
No.
But it also could be, you say you're transparent. So at a minimum, let's have the conversation and talk about what's happening. Yeah. Let's not put our head in the sand. We can agree that these programs are good for the people who need it, but there's other people taking advantage of the programs too.
Can I say this for the uneducated like myself on what I think you just said? Minnesota made it a pass-through program. So now we give $100 million to Bob, because I, Bobby Joe Champion, don't want to be told that I gave it to people I might know, 300 transfer. I don't want anybody holding me accountable. So I give it to Bob. Bob gets a cut, I presume, to run the thing. So Bob's going to get his 10%. Bob just made $10 million.
And Bob reviews and collects and reviews all of the applications.
Yes. And what do you know? A lot of Bob's friends instantly are in the business. I don't know, Bob. Maybe it's 100% legit, but you just said right out, Bob ain't talking. Bob's not going to tell you his process. Bob's not going to tell you who got it. That's exactly how slush funds are made. This is the most horrible way of doing business ever. That's what I heard you say, but it wasn't the same thing. I said it out loud. Send me the emails, Al Travis Show. You just give Bob the money and say, Bob, you take the responsibility? Here's 10%?
Well, and even in this whole conversation and, continuing to talk about fraud, Republicans are making it kind of their landmark thing they want to get passed in session. Great. You have a lot of other organizations who are, looking at this as an opportunity to improve. They're implementing their own kind of anti-fraud measures, even if private entities as well. People are all trying to figure out, how can we insulate ourselves better? That's great. They're now coming to the state and saying, hey, we're trying this out and it's going really well. You should try it too. And I find that so concerning that the communication is going that way versus the state kind of setting the example and laying the framework and having the boxes there for these organizations to check. This is just the day and age I guess we're in.
Megan, it's no different than the governor coming out after all this time that I'm going to take fraud on. I can't run for re-election. I've got too much to do. And his 18 proposals are all about raising the crime. Of course, if you get caught, this is what we'll do. Not we're going to try to catch you, not how we're going to catch you. Not even saying that there's anything wrong with the way we run these programs. He didn't have one thing about Department of Human Services and the Optum report saying, oh, by the way, if we follow our own rules, we'll save $1.7 billion. He doesn't even have that in his proposal. I am telling you right now, as of today, I'm telling you, no one in our government on the one side cares to stop this crap. No one.
Well, we'll keep monitoring it. We'll be back every week, likely talking about fraud. It continues to be top of mind for many. So
until you blow an artery on me because you get my blood pressure going, that'll be the end of this whole thing.
We might have to take a couple of weekly breaks, talk about the weather, other lighthearted things.
We'll get there. Thank you, Megan.
Yes, thanks for having me on. Like I said, we'll be back next week talking about fraud and other top Minnesota news stories of the week on the Al Travis Show with Megan's News and Review.
Chanhassen Dinner Theater is proudly